Yeah, so I think Sheikh Yasir Qadi should have honestly given some explanation. Now, I do respect him for saying, look, I hold a different view, but he didn't clarify exactly what his view was. He then went on to say there's 40 different views. And I accept there's loads of views. I accept that, and I'm glad he is at least raising awareness on that, but he's not really, he ought to just try and lay this matter to rest, or come out with and explain to people at least what he believes to help them. To kind of, because he made this video and said, I won't be discussing this again. And you think, Chache, you haven't even explained anything. You just said, yeah, there's 40 views, yeah, I'm not with that view, I'm with the other view. The British, rather, the garage, bring a bottle of water to the garage. And you think, yeah, this is like, why doesn't he answer the question? I mean, I don't get what the, like, say something for God's sake, since this is your last smackdown, at least share some view. Don't just say, yeah, you know, water. I mean, come on, there's more to it than that. So I'm disappointed by him once again evading the question. So yeah, that look, in my understanding, there was a dynamism that was there in the Prophet's time. Over the stages, it got restricted. We today would not be allowed because of the way we've received the tradition. It is static as it's come to us, but really, if we were in the Prophet's time, it would have still had that dynamism. It's just today, not just today, for the most part of Islam, it's been then restricted. Okay, so that has kind of left us because we don't have access to it. So us to just do it today, we have had, you know, for the most part, really going back to Uthman's time, we've had this disconnect. So we, you know, it would not be allowed, it would not be correct to have any play with that today, although in essence the Qur'an was dynamic, so it allowed for people to substitute words for their ease when it was being revealed and when it was being read during the Prophet's time. That was the understanding of Imam Malik, of Imam Shafi'i, as Ibn Abd al-Barr explains in the Tamheed, although it's unclear whether Imam Malik believed that them substituting words was the default ruling, or was that just a rukhsa, just an exception for them, a rukhsa, a dispensation to make life easy for them. So they may have felt the latter. I feel the former, that it is by default the azima, the ruling for people. I hope that shed some light on the nature of the Qur'an. The reason I explain that is because Yasir Qadi said, well, he's not going to explain it. And it's him who's really opened this can of worms. So he really ought to do some explanation. Okay, cool. I hope that. Some people had asked me that, Mufti, you know, about this nature of the Qur'an issue. I have explained it before. I have got a little video. I did have some notes, some very brief kind of written notes I'd shared with some people. So I thought, look, I'll share them here, because according to me, this is why I'm grateful he has highlighted some diversity. Look, it is true, there is diversity in this, how Muslims understood revelation. To me, the Qur'an has always been dynamic. There is a dynamism to the nature of the Qur'an. And there are layers to this. I will briefly give an overview so some people may at least find some clarity. If they choose to disagree with me, that's fine. There are plenty of other interpretations they can take. In my understanding, the scholars have never said that traditionally that the Qur'an, harf for harf, vowel for vowel, is exactly forever static. They've never said that. As a whole, they've addressed the Qur'an. But this thing of saying every single vowel, this is a very recent 19th century, 20th century phenomenon. So here are some notes. When I've discussed this previously with some friends and students, I've highlighted that there's different layers in which we can take this. There's the ontology stage, or the essence stage, that the revelation in its very essence, where it's a divine message, which the Asha'ira refer to in their books as Al-Kalam al-Azli, that this is just a meaning, it's not language, it's not words. There's the second stage, and I break it down into 7 stages, but you can break it into how many you like, really. The revelation stage, this is where it is expressed, and it's the word used for it is Al-Kalam al-Lafzi. This is what the Ash'aris and the theologians use. And this is the Qur'an al-Arabi stage. This is when it manifests in this world. It manifests in the Arabic language. Now, they do disagree. Now, I do highlight there that, look, that this realm it does restrict things. So already there's some restriction. I quote the great Maliki legend there, the early jurist and theologian al-Baqilani, who says Al-Quran al-Arabi laysa kalam Allah al-Azli bal ibara anhu wa dalalatun ali, that it reflects and is an expression of the divine message, but the Quran Arabi belongs to this world, not that world. So there is a difference. Now, Bajuri, I do explain here in this stage, the second stage, there is a question that where is the Arabic coming from? The Quran, if it's being created, the Asha'ira use the word muhdath. They tend to avoid the word makhluk because of the controversy that went before them, so they use the word muhdath, brought into existence, as and the Asha'ira claim that the kalam al-lafzi is muhdath, but the kalam al-azli isn't. Nafsi, that kalam which was not Arabic, which was not words, that which was with God is divine and transcendent, but what was in this world is obviously of this world. They then disagree between themselves at what stage did it become created. Some say in the lawh, some say in the sky, some say in the ears, some say in the mind of Jibreel, some say in the mind of the Prophet. I find myself in line with that latter, that it's in the mind of the Prophet that it appears. It is revealed to him. So I don't believe the Prophet is inventing it. It is revealed to the Prophet in his mind, and it is an Arabic Quran that it comes, and this would be the second stage. The third stage would be the dynamic interaction stage. This is the sab'at ahruf, meaning the many, the multiform that it takes, or the dynamism is expressed. So this life that it has to it, that rulings are revealed, there are changes being made, abrogations. The Sahaba are allowed to substitute words and synonymize them. Now, Ibn Abdul Barr in his Tamheed highlights that Imam Malik and Shafi'i were of that view, that the Sahaba could do that. Whatever made it easy for them, they could replace these words, and this was called the Sab'at Ahruf according to them. This dynamism, in my understanding, was the default nature of the Quran. It was not just a dispensation. It was not a rukhsa, it was the azima. Okay, if that makes sense to you. Then there is the embodiment stage. Now, I've used the term embodiment because it's being now placed in a written body. Okay, it moves from an oral to a textual tradition. I have a mind trap elaborating on this with Dr. Khalil Andani. Is definitely worth checking out, where we speak about this, the challenges of something going from an oral to a written phase. Now, this and the verse of the Quran, أنزلنا الكتاب تجعلونه قراطيس, we revealed the book. We say the book, we revealed the scripture, you make it into pages. That is a verse of the Quran. Although there are some examples of this from the Prophet's life, where people are trying to write it down on whether it's going to be parchments and things, but really it happens after the Prophet's life. It happens during arguably Abu Bakr's time, definitely by Uthman's time. But this whole thing, even before the Uthmani thing, this writing it down has many challenges with it. What some of these challenges are, just in case you're wondering, well, first of all, it was to do with what script should be used. Okay, because that's an important point. What script? So the Nabatean script was chosen. Then there was the fifth stage, the constriction or reductionist stage. I mean, it's a reductionist stage, but I've called it constriction. And that is the Rasm al-Uthmani. In his time, Uthman radiallahu anh definitely puts together this codex, this consonantal restriction, where he has certain, you can't really, he's trying to create some unity amongst people wishing to recite. Now, what the challenges that brings, it traps the expression within these consonantal barriers of that script, which is that from Hira, the Jazm script, the Nabatean script, and it is the end of the dynamic era. Because now, once the words are trapped, people can no longer substitute them. Okay, so that has definitely come to an end. I will just, and you move on to the deciphering stage, which is after that, where several Qur'an emerge, because now, although the consonantal template is there, how to read it, but the vowels, people are still, you know, some people may be doing their own ijtihad, some people may be assuming, some people. So there is a lot of attempts in how should it be best pronounced. What are the inflections, the endings? How should they be? What are the vowelings, the diacritical marks? Is this a fa or a qaf? So the best example is like in English text message language. Even though it's quite straightforward, sometimes you could be, you could understand that what do they mean here if somebody was to say, THZ or THS, is this these, is this those? Like that, there's a disagreement. So similarly, I'm just trying to give an approximation here. So a lot of Qur'an are emerging. There's grammatical diversity is expanding, and it's having a mutual impact. It's impacting grammar. Grammar is impacting it. And then there's the globalization stage in which constricting the embodiment. So we know we already have this kind of template, the structure of the Uthmani Rasm. Now it's constricting it further. So this has several waves to it. I highlight that there's the Ibn Mujahid kind of era where he kind of chooses these 7 Qurra only. But remember, from each Qurra, from each Qari, many people are transmitting it differently. You have the Ibn Ghalboon, Ad-Dani. It's really not Ibn Ad-Dani, but still, I mean, people have put Dani in there as well. The 2 Rawi canon, that look, each Qari should have at least 2 Rawat from him. Shatibi restricting it to the 7, selecting who these Rawis are from them. Al-Jazari accommodating a few more. I gave the example of isotopes last time, where I mentioned that, look, the way you have certain elements that will have certain isotopes to them. Now, it's just the way things are that reality pans out, that some elements will always be more stable, and these isotopes, some of them will always just be very unstable. As an analogy, some of these qira'at in society as a social experiment, some will always preponderate. Okay, and that's exactly what happens. Naturally, over time, you will find a particular one, for one reason or another, dominating the scene. And this is a quasi-end of the variation era, the variant era, because it's now become kind of trapped within certain readings that are then imprinted. So you can't really move about. And these were my notes that I shared with some people.